Hi everyone! Today we are going to explore one of the oldest epics in the world and also one of the longest ones, the Ramayana. The Ramayana is somewhat reminiscent of the Odyssey, while the Mahabharata is somewhat reminiscent of the Iliad. Composed around the same time as the Mahabharata, the Ramayana is written in 24,000 couplets. It is essentially a story of love and banishment. The symbolism of the story has been interpreted a number of ways but is widely seen as a story of good overcoming evil, with dharma or duty. The Valmiki or Sanskrit Ramayana contains nearly 50,000 lines of verse. It is much longer than both the Iliad and the Odyssey. The narrative is broken up into 7 books. There are numerous translations of the Ramayana available in English. One popular but extremely condensed version based on the Tamil of Kamban is by R.K. Narayan, Penguin Books. In India, just as popular is the version, also in prose but longer, by C. Raha Gopalachari, Bharatiya Veda Bhavan. Another easily available version in verse is by William Block. The most scholarly and complete English translations of Ramayana is the multi-volume version by Robert Goldman, Sheldon Pollock, and others, published by Princeton.
History of the Ramayana. The Ramayana has been performed throughout India and Southeast Asia for at least 2,000 years. The earliest written text dates back to 400 AD and was written by the poet Valmiki, who brought together stories, songs, and prayers connected to Rama and Sita. Vinay Lal, a professor of history at UCLA, wrote, "The Ramayana belongs to a class of literature known in Sanskrit as kavya, or poetry, though in the West it is considered to belong to the category of literature familiar to readers of Homer, namely the epic. It is one of 2 epics, the other being the Mahabharata, which have had a decisive influence in shaping the nature of Indian civilization. The Ramayana existed in the oral tradition perhaps as far back as 1500 BC, but the 4th century BC is generally accepted as the date of its composition in Sanskrit by Valmiki. History background of the Ramayana. According to scholars, the entire Ramayana is not the product of one hand. Their investigations have demonstrated that apart from minor interpolations in other portions, the 1st and 7th books were definitively added afterwards. For here occur statements in conflict with these in latter books, and Rama is transformed into an incarnation of the universal god, Vishnu, whereas in the original poem, he is merely a human hero. This process of deification must have taken some time, and it may even be the genuine and spurious parts are divided by centuries. Now, to what period are we to assign the epic kernel itself? There can be no doubt from the insertion of the Kamokina in the 3rd book of the Mahabharata that the poem of Valmiki must have been generally known as an old work before the Mahabharata assumed a coherent form. Besides, it is significant that the Ramayana does not refer to Pataliputra, founded by Udayin. The capital of Kosala is still called Ayodhya, not Saketa, which was its name in Buddhist and other later books. Buddha is mentioned only once, and that too perhaps in an interpolated verse, and the political conditions indicate the paternal rule of kings, exercising sway over small states. A consideration of all these and other points has led Dr. MacDonald to suppose that the kernel of the Ramayana was composed before 500 BC, while the more recent portions were probably not added till the 2nd century BC and later.
Dasharatha was the king of Ayodhya and had 3 wives and 4 sons. Rama was the eldest and his mother was Kaushalya. Bharata was the son of Dasharatha's second and favorite wife, which is Queen Kikeyi. The other 2 were twins, Lakshmana and Shatrughna, whose mother was Sumitra. In the neighboring city of the ruler's daughter was named Sita. It was time for Sita to choose her bridegroom. A ceremony called Swayamvara. Princes from all over the land were asked to string a giant bow which no one could lift. However, as Rama picked it up, he not only strung the bow, he broke it. Seeing this, Sita indicated that she had chosen Rama as her husband by putting a garland around his neck. Their love became a model for the entire kingdom as they look over the kingdom under the watchful eye of his father, the king.
A few years later, King Dasharatha decided it was time to give his throne to his eldest son Rama and retire to the forest. Everyone seemed to be pleased, except Queen Kaikeyi, since she wanted her son Bharata to rule. Because of an oath Dasharatha had made to her years before, she got the king to agree to banish Rama for 14 years and to crown Bharata, even though the king pleaded with her not to demand such requests. The devastated king could not face Rama, and it was Queen Kaikeyi who told Rama the king's decree. Rama, as always obedient, was content to go into banishment in the forest. Sita and Lakshmana accompanied him on his exile.
One day, Rama and Lakshmana wounded a Rakshasa, a demon princess who tried to seduce Rama. This demon princess returned to her brother Ravana, the 10-headed ruler of Lanka. In retaliation, Ravana devised a plan to abduct Sita after hearing about her incomparable beauty. He sent one of his demons disguised as a magical golden deer to entice Sita. To please Sita, Rama and Lakshmana went to hunt down a deer. Before they did though, they drew a protective circle around Sita and told her that she would be safe for as long as she would not step outside the circle. After Rama and Lakshmana left, Ravana appeared as a holy man begging alms. The moment Sita stepped outside the circle to give him food, Ravana grabbed her and carried her to his kingdom in Lanka.
Rama then sought the help of a band of monkeys offered to help him find Sita. Hanuman, the general of the monkey band, can fly, since his father is the wind. He flew to Lanka and, finding Sita in the grove, comforted her and told her Rama would come to save her soon. Ravana's men captured Hanuman, and Ravana ordered them to wrap Hanuman's tail in cloth and to set it on fire. With his tail burning, Hanuman escaped and hopped from housetop to housetop, setting Lanka on fire. He then flew back to Rama to tell him where Sita was. Rama, Lakshmana, and the monkey army built a causeway from the tip of the India to Lanka and crossed over to Lanka, where a cosmic battle ensued. Rama killed several of Ravana's brothers and eventually confronted the 10-headed Ravana. He killed Ravana, freed Sita, and after Sita proved her purity, they returned to Ayodhya, where Bharata returned the crown to him.